I mean, I haven't guilted him enough yet to being able to book me, but they're doing some awesome stuff down there. So
I'm sure he would if he knew. It's like,
can I get that in writing, Chris? And you can.
Well, the thing is, we're very good friends with Luke, so if you want, I mean, basically got a BCW, so he owes me one, so it's all good, right? I'll hook you up.
Thanks, Xander. I appreciate
really
it.
Nice guy.
They say it's not what you know, it's who you know, right?
100%.
Or who you no, that's different one. So yeah.
It's good. Good snap. Good snap. It's good. Good snap.
Hey, you're wrestling fans, and welcome to the Good Snap podcast. I'm Xander Rose, and with me is my tag partner, Chris Zorba. Zorba, how are you, mate?
Yeah, good, Xander. How are you going?
Mate, fantastic. Mate, tonight, our guest is one of the most respected wrestlers in Australia today, Ryan Eagles. Ryan, how are you, pal?
I'm good, and that's pretty good for your, what is that, the 12th time that we tried to do that intro? And
oh, mate, it was pretty good, yeah. That was the first time, wasn't it?
yeah, I mean, yes, first time. Sorry. Yep.
Oh, you got to get off those wines.
You're gonna see a few cuts in this video.
Oh, definitely. I'm all the edits. So.
What's happening, buddy?
Not much. Just having a quiet Friday night in, hanging with the kids, and that's the bulk of what my weekend will consist of. Especially now with this rain and stuff, can't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. Well, mate, we always ask this question to start up. When did you start watching wrestling?
I was a bit of a late bloomer. So I actually played hockey, played basketball growing up, and then we moved to Sydney when I was in year 10. And one of the guys that I played under 18s reps basketball with, they had a little group that they used to do some backyard stuff. One of those guys being Jas, the Minto Mauler, or Genghis. I'm going to butcher his name. Genghis Kong now.
Yeah.
Apologies, Jas. I apologize. Oh, and then I just broke down the unspoken rule there too, and government named him. But we.
Senlink's going to go chasing for him now, going, oh,
yeah, exactly. But yeah, so we're all sort of in this similar friendship group. And when I was in about year 12 at high school, and I got invited a few times, and I was actually one of the guys in their groups, and the guy that I played basketball with was Casey Jackson, who I don't know if you guys remember back from the early 2000s. Yeah, so I think the first one that I ever got really invited to, here's a bit of trivia for you. So first event that we were invited to, we all went in, and one of the guys I play basketball with, his name's Jacob McKay, who is the older brother of Jesse McKay, who you guys would know was Billy Kay, or who wrestled for PWA, who was one of the first trainees for PWA.
Yep.
But yeah, we all sat down and watched. It was Royal Rumble 2000, and I was kind of hooked from there. So I had the guys sort of give me all the backstory around Taz's debut and his whole thing with Kurt Angle. Became a big Jericho fan just on some of the stuff that he was doing, because that was around the time of the whole Y2J, and he'd just come over from WCW. And was really drawn in, not knowing any of the backstory, and it still stands as one of my favorite promos, just because I can remember the goosebumps that I got from the whole Mankind turning into Cactus Jack for the match with Triple H, and that whole, I can't wrestle you, but you might remember that, you might know the guy, or you might know who your opponent is, and he did the big sort of bang bang. But yeah, no, that was the first event I remember sitting down and watching with a group of mates, and was just hooked from there. So that was the Royal Rumble 2000. And then I go all sort of Aspie and like fully immerse myself, and there's no doing things in halves is kind of my approach to everything. So
yeah, I was going to say that is pretty late though. Like normally, when we get people on here, they're like, oh, I used to go down to the video store, hire the videotapes, but yeah, then.
I think I remember doing. Sorry to cut you off, Chris. I think I remember doing that as a kid, and I think I might have had an Undertaker. When he used to do the purple tie Undertaker, and had a figure of that, and had some other stuff, but nothing that really was inspired me to take the next step. It wasn't until that Royal Rumble 2000 that I really was like, okay, I'm hooked. Like,
Nice. So how did you actually get into the industry?
funnily enough, I had another mate. We were playing basketball together. He just started training, and he actually invited myself and Jacob, Jesse's older brother, down to training one day. And we kind of, I think Jacob sort of fobbed him off, and I was like, okay, this could be fun, this could be interesting. And I just started playing rugby at the time, and I was just gonna, I suppose my approach is just sort of, try everything, say yes and try it all. So very much just went down one session. Funnily enough, the other guy that was in the car that day who was having his first training session was Blake Stone, who would be floating around as well. And then I think my mate actually ended up quitting probably a couple of weeks after that, and I sort of stayed. So I got hooked. There was a couple guys that some old names that I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with them. High Voltage was there, and also now Justin Cross was there as well. And I remember so we did our class. The trainer left, and we sat, the three of us sat there, and okay, let's try and do frog splashes and let's do all this other stuff. And and it was kind of almost that sort of the three of us trying to like almost extend what we were getting or not getting out of the training sessions. And then it was probably, we stayed in my little shell for a couple of years until Casey Jackson introduced me to Will Phoenix, who I became a big fan of. And he actually, when I was finishing uni, I went down and started training with PWA down in Melbourne, under Lobo and Jay Andrews and those guys. And it was actually from there, I suppose, where I sort of say, Ryan Eagles was born, because that was when I started wrestling under that name. And on my first match out of the fed that I started in, I was going to use a colourful word there to describe it, but I won't. But the place where we originally started, wrestling under another name and doing some other stuff, and it wasn't until I actually I'd been training out in Melbourne, met guys like Gambino when he was first training, and all those sort of boys, and had my first ever match, the Dragonfly. I still remember it. It would have been about May or June of 2005 against Crackerjack. And by that stage, I'd been, I suppose, wrestling and training and stuff like that for about 4 or 5 years by that point. About 4 years. But that was when it sort of really took off.
That's what we're going to ask as well. Like, so you said with your name, you got the Eagles name. How did that whole faction get started, if you don't mind us asking?
No, ask away. Pretty simple. I had moved to Melbourne. I just got this fancy new pair of boots made, and they had on the calf that I designed had this logo that was a hawk or an eagle logo, and I was like, okay, I need something. And at that stage, I'd kind of committed to using the Ryan name. And then I was it has to be something with a bird, because I've just got these fancy new boots that I've just shelled out $200 for. As a uni student, that's $2,000. And so started with that one, and then obviously about a year and a half later, got married, and that's where that name sort of extended. And then about a year or two after that, Robbie started training. And so that was came about. We both had long blonde hair and big fat asses, and the rest I say is history, right?
That's it. So you obviously went with Eagles, and there was no other bird that you can think of or anything. Like you
no, that's my name on my birth certificate, Chris. I don't know what you're talking about.
Because you guys are brothers, right?
Yeah. Yep. So.
I thought so.
No.
So obviously you've been wrestling you've been wrestling for a long time.
Yep. Some would say that, like in my matches too, they go, fuck, this has gone a long time.
But as far as your in-ring persona, has it changed a little bit, or, through time from the start till now?
Yes and no. So there was a period there where I went on a bit of a Vampiro Muda kick and tried to do something different and try to mix it up with some face paint and did some other stuff. And it was a gimmick that Rick Sterling and I were kind of trying to play around with and try and do something a little bit different, and just trying to find different ways to stand out. And I suppose that's probably been my approach. So there's been little things along the way. I know, like when we started doing the stuff in Melbourne, again, goes back to that early 2000s, late 90s Jericho. Like there's some very similarities in the stuff we were doing. And for me, it was that combination of, it's always been my philosophy about that, trying to create that emotional connection. And sometimes it's easier for me to rely on, whether it be wit, humor, whatever you want to call it, to try and make sure that I'm keeping people engaged along the way. And then we did an angle down in Melbourne where Will and Bish came down, and at the time they were doing the Team Metro stuff in Sydney, and we kind of got just booked as a group of Team Metro, and then I kept going down there and almost kept doing that for a little bit, but didn't really lean into it the same way that Will and Bish had done, and they did some amazing stuff. I'm huge fans of them still to this day. Not that either are involved in wrestling anymore, but I just think back very fondly of the stuff that they were doing at the time. So that there was like borrowed elements, but never really strayed too far from who I am. I've found, I suppose it's got that whole self-awareness thing and knowing what works for yourself. And I find that, if I can get into the story and I can almost not play it out, but really sort of attach to the emotion involved in it, that I can sort of grip onto that. But I'd say the fundamentals of my character aren't very overly different no matter what. And I think that was sort of evident even when I tried to go down the face paint and try to do something a little bit different. We moved to America and they I went from being one of the only guys wearing face paint to one of every three guys was wearing a face paint or a mask or something. Wow. Especially doing some stuff with Shikara and everyone's in a mask. So it was that was when I started to lean a bit more back into sort of the stuff that I'd done before. So, and again, there's not a huge difference. I had this question just the other day. We had a match the other day, and I got someone said to me and went, "Okay, so what's your gimmick?" And I was like, "Just me." Like, this is, yeah. I just
Xander's asked that before, going, "Oh, so what's your gimmick?" And I didn't like that question.
Bloody
I've got no
Tyson
problems with
Gibb. Bloody wanker Tyson Gibbs.
I'm not getting involved in the war of words here, mate. Yeah.
I'm throwing out names, but no, he's a legend.
He's a good bloke. He's a good guy.
Big fan. But you know what I think you would have rocked back in the day if you did? The old Sting 94, like the peroxided blonde hair with the
that was paint. Look, that was I say years 7 to 10. It was but then also I think I went through a stage where I actually was doing some stuff, again, just trying to be different, trying to stand out, trying to just have my own sort of unique thing about myself. At one stage I was for a while I was putting like the dyed blonde hair in, but I put it all in different patches so that I had patches of the dark and light. And there's been a few times where I've noticed like Robbie does it even over in Japan, and I call him out and he goes, it's a slight homage, but I don't think it's I don't think it's fully embraced as that was. I don't have ownership on it. Like, please, I'm not the first person to put dodgy peroxide in my hair. So, So yes, it has been done. I won't lie, and I do enjoy. So going back to like what you're saying about what you watched and what got you into it, I just like once I sort of my eyes were open, I sort of went in this deep dive, and I'd go through these stages where I'd watch lots of lucha, and then I'd want to be doing a whole bunch of that stuff, and I'd go on a 3-month binge of watching Owen Hart matches, and then there was there was the ROH stage at one point, and I love that sort of early to mid 90s WCW period was like. That's like the golden period for me, that I used to love going back and watching it. Still now, I don't watch much wrestling now, but I would still go back and watch, some of those guys. Like a massive Terry Funk fan. I know he was. Sorry, mate.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, what's your sort of style now? Like, what you do in ring it's obviously like, is it a lot of chain wrestling sort of stuff, or do you mix it up?
Look, I kind of lean into a few of the guys that I still sort of stand through as the guys that I probably gravitate towards. Guys like Hashimoto, guys like Kenta Kobashi, big Stan Hansen fan, and I suppose it's more again. It's that what we're. But sorry, I was finishing that one, and probably the biggest one would be Terry Funk. Is probably one of my all-time favorites, and if anything, it's just taking little bits and pieces, particularly of some of the stuff that he used to do, and even just some of the way he sort of exaggerates or sells or takes some of the moves and those sort of things. So they're the sort of stuff that I really embrace. And then I'd take elements from all those different people. Might try and take some stuff with what Bockwinkel used to do and some of those guys. So, but as far as style or gimmick or any of those things, it's I suppose the way that we were describing it the other day, and I partly is because of where I live now and my life choices that I probably lean into the fact that I live in the middle of nowhere. And I think the way that I described it the other day when someone goes, "What's your gimmick?" I was going to say, well, as a heel, it's that I dress and act like Rip from Yellowstone, but then really when the pressure's on, it's like Jamie. So I turn to water and pus and that sort of stuff. So that kind of lets you know as far as the shows that I'm watching way too much of and stuff like that as well. So, but as far as style, it's really about. I feel like one of the things that I prided myself on, particularly when I was running that training school for so long, was not having a set style or not having a set way of doing things. It was that going in and being able to adapt to any sort of style and any sort of thing. So like I've just had this sort of series of matches with Keegan, and he likes to do a lot of the brawling stuff. And I'm like, yep, that's kind of my bread and butter. I can do that sort of stuff. Yeah. For me to go out there, and whilst I feel I would I'd say above average, or I'd say I'm pretty handy when it comes to doing sort of the technical and chain stuff. It doesn't sort of fit in with I suppose where I've been sitting on the cards, and also what sort of that image that I have at the moment. I suppose at the moment the image that I probably put out there is your bar fighter at the end of the bar that just wants to be left alone, not to drink his red wine, but to drink beers. But yeah, so it wouldn't make sense for me to go out there and do a 15 minutes of exchanging holds and those sort of things. In saying that though, like one of my fondest memories is wrestling Gene Kelly, who for an hour we did an hour Broadway, like an hour draw, and it was very much like exchanging holds and really trying to tell that story over an hour, over an hour period of time. And trust me, we're not doing too many extended run sequences in an hour long. So no, but like some of those things we were able to do, and I felt that I held my own and was proficient. And that I could morph into that style. And then when I'm wrestling with other guys, it's sort of adapting to the style that they use and they're comfortable with as well, which has kind of always been my jam or my approach to things.
Well, mate, you've always said that you've been wrestling for a long time now, a lot of good moments and whatnot. Is there a highlight? I suppose for me, and I've been very reflective over recent. Obviously, I had a little bit of time off there. I mean, everyone did with COVID. But just because of personal circumstances, I had a bit of time off there, and being very reflective around, I suppose, what my legacy, for lack of a better term, is. And I suppose the highlights for me are being able to take something and be part of what was originally sort of a shared vision with myself and Lobo. When we and then Cross and I had taken over the Canberra promotion, which turned into PWA Canberra. But then because I was still living in Sydney, it kind of morphed into this now, like having PWA. It was Elite, and then it became PWA Australia and all those sort of stuff. But I suppose for me, and this is going to sound a little bit, I don't know, take it however you want, but some of the highlights for me, I have made some incredible friends, had some incredible matches, and been involved with some amazing moments. But then it's also sort of seeing the guys that sort of came through either from the start or guys that I was able to have some sort of impact. And I say guys, but I mean guys and girls that have some sort of impact on their, sounds very cliche, but their journey. And then seeing what they've gone on to succeed. I think for me, has been huge. Like, seeing what Robbie's done, seeing what Jess and Cassie have done over in the States, seeing what Davis and Kyle and those boys are doing, like to be able to say that I had a small part. I'm not going to take, I don't sort of
not conceited enough to think that I had them, like the majority part, but to have some small part in their success, or at least their pathway to their success. Those sort of things are probably for me stand as things that I can kind of hang my hat on. That like I know that I've made some incredible friends over when I was in America. I've had the opportunity to wrestle in Japan. Like you talk about a highlight, running bare ass through the Delphin Arena because I got like dacked, and I was like, I'm these pants are staying down now, so I'm running bare ass through. Like having little things like that have been awesome. Getting to work in the ECW arena, being going back and I went through and sort of did a deep dive, even was watching the ECW TV and other stuff as part of my sort of self-education in wrestling. So being a part of all that stuff has been amazing. Getting to live in America was great. Getting to meet all these different people and having some small part in their success has been awesome. So yeah, I know I'm a bit all over the place when it comes to not giving you a defined moment.
There's a whole bunch of highlights, which is
sure.
A lot of people these days don't get to have, and that's awesome. Like you've helped out a lot of people, and that's
and I've got to record all these highlights now before CTE kicks in, and I forget them all. So,
yeah, well, that scares the bejesus out of me. I really don't want to talk about the CTE. But I was going to say, did you ever wrestle Mike Valuable?
Yes. I don't know.
Does that name ring a bell?
No, Mike Valuable was a legend of a guy. I'm just trying to remember back whether we had an actual singles match. I'm surely we did. I had this conversation like without exaggeration, and again, I'm going to drop up her name. So Chris, if you get ready to pick it up, but I was talking to Jonah not that long ago, and we were talking about something, and he goes, and we said, we'll have another a match again, and I went, hang on a sec, we haven't wrestled. He goes, yeah, we have, and he was able to recall all these things. I was like, oh, now I remember, yeah. So I'm sure you'd probably be able to go. While I'm sitting here going, I'm sure we would have, because he is a champion of a bloke, and but I'm sure you'd be able to tell me like the exact date and month and stuff like that. But yeah, so no, where are you leading with this one, Xander?
Well, no, I just thought because he's a VCW wrestler now, and we see him all the time, and I just thought he's another old head there in the old PWA days, and I thought maybe you would have wrestled him, or you would have, spoke a little bit, but yeah.
No, definitely, and I still love I look back fondly on, and we never really got to play it out fully the way we would have liked, but I see elements of it in the later iterations of what became like the Four Nations and stuff. But we actually had there was a stable going on there for a while, and there was Esteban Molina and Ahmed Iblis, who I'm a huge fan of, and Izzy was in it. Mike Valuable was in it. And we might have to hit the edit button on that one. Jeez, I'm having a shocker.
That's all right.
But yeah, and I want to say that MH Seidel might have been in it as well. But Fu Manchu from Port Macquarie, who was drastically underrated as well. So those guys sort of had their kingdom, their stable that they called the Kingdom, and I saw so much potential in that to be something, and I don't think we fully had the platform to make it into what it could have been. But yeah, I have very fond memories of looking back on even just thinking about how they, the match, the show. I still remember the show when they actually came together and they did their big promo, and yet we're a group now. And it was also the same one that Lucas Kelly and Gene Kelly might have done dives at different times, and no one caught Lucas Kelly, who ended up just eating just the wood and breaking his wrist, and and so it was like anything that we did after that was kind of like good luck being the anything that gets remembered from this show after that. So I still remember.
Well, the thing is, Mike Valuable's still going. You're still going. You never know. It could happen now if it hasn't happened in the past. If you can't remember.
Yep, it'll be like isn't Ric Flair training for a match at the moment too?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
It'll be like that. It'll be two 80-year-olds limping around. So.
Well, this is going to be a bit hard because you can't remember who you wrestled, but are there?
No, I do remember some stuff. Not completely seen up.
Oh, are there any wrestlers that you haven't been in the ring with? Are there any wrestlers that you
Davis
haven't
Storm.
been in the ring yet?
100%. Yep, Davis Storm. So I've been saying this one now for a good at least 5 years. I consider him to be one of my closest friends. that and just an incredible human, and anyone that's around him would know that. And there are people that because he's on the other side, he's in the People's Republic of Western Australia, that we haven't sort of. It's one of the ones that I still remember we were supposed to wrestle a 3-way match on a show in Perth one time. And then I went off with Husey and did we went and played rugby during the day and ended up getting knocked out. And then so the match that was supposed to happen was the only time that Davis and I were booked together. I decided to get myself a concussion during the day and the match got canned. And then we sat at home and watched rugby and AFL and ate pizza and didn't wrestle. But
even better.
Yeah.
That's even better.
Yeah, right. And then he sat there and was like, "You got a concussion. Should you be drinking that beer?" Yeah, that's a different story. But he's number one on that list of guys that I haven't had a chance to, and probably more my iteration. And I like to think that the influence that I had, through New South Wales and that sort of stuff, and the influence that he's had in Perth. Could be almost compared to the same sort of influence that Lobo had in Victoria and Hartley Jackson had in Adelaide or South Australia. And I've had a chance to be in the ring with Lobo. I've had a chance to be in the ring with Hartley, and I think it's Davis is that sort of that one that I keep holding on to. But then also one of the things that I'm it's always been a focus of mine, and I had probably more opportunity when I was running a training school and being part of booking decisions. Is that I've always really enjoyed working with those young guys with lots of potential. So someone that I've said that I want to do some stuff with is Chief, Big Rig up in help me out here, Newcastle. I just think, maybe this is probably one of the times where it seems maybe a little bit conceited. I do see some similarities in some of the stuff that he does to some of the stuff that I used to do, or try and do now. There's guys down in Melbourne who I just enjoy, sticking with the rig theme, Fun Time Phil. I loved the stuff that he was doing down in Victoria, and I mean now he's all serious and it's just not as fun. But there are sort of a few young guys that are coming through that I feel like I'd have some fun with and be able to hopefully would be able to sort of help or at least offer some sort of a different perspective. And then even some of the young guys in Canberra, because I'm closer to Canberra these days, but I see some of the stuff that they're doing. I'd love to sort of get in the ring and do some stuff with those guys, because I think they have a tremendous amount of potential as well. And that's probably what I gravitate more to, unless it's an old broken down man like Davis that we can limp around together. It's very much those young guys.
What are your goals at the moment for your future wrestling career?
This is a hard one. I'm not as ambitious as I used to be, if I'm honest, Chris. I coach pretty high level rugby union, and my head's kind of in that space. Between the kids, I've changed industries for work and stuff now, and foolishly I'm still at university doing another master's degree, so time is pretty poor. But I suppose for me, if I did have a couple goals once I came back, it was kind of like the first one was just get through the matches and without my knee exploding was kind of like the first goal, and that seems to be going okay so far. Touch wood. I suppose it's more about I'm just having a bit of fun and then helping people where I can. They're probably my main goals. And then when it stops being fun or when I stop being able to sort of impact, and it's not in the way that I would like to. Like I said, I coach rugby. I've always kind of been in that space of coaching and helping or whatever you want to call it. But I suppose as far as if I stop being useful in that space, then I stop having fun with it, then that's probably when, or if I'm too much of a burden. I mean, at the moment, I'm pretty fortunate in the position that I'm in, and I'm having a bit of success, but that was never my motivation, is to come back and win championships. It was more just to come back and have a bit of fun and almost prove to myself that I've still not like, you know, I still a little bit got it, but, you know,
Yeah.
I'm not going out and doing the same level that what I used to. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, you just wrestled Carlito.
Yep.
When was it? A couple weeks ago. How did that go?
It was
Have you wrestled Carlito in the past before, or is that the first time you actually? No?
I was supposed to wrestle for his dad's promotion in Puerto Rico back in 2008. But then like Steve Carino had got me booked down there, and being a massive Bruiser Brody fan, I was kind of talked out of that by my partner at the time, because, you know, you don't go in the showers and you don't discuss pay in Puerto Rico, because that's how you don't come back. And I think you know, like, so I think I sort of got talked out of that one, and I understood the reasoning. But yeah, that's probably about the only real, like, very vague connection that I'd have to him beforehand. It was fine. Like, it was because of kind of the story that we're trying to tell, particularly with the stuff that I've been doing with Keegan. It wasn't going to be and plus it's a 3-way, and they drive me insane, because part of it is just a lack of control. Like, you've got to be able to believably do something while the other two are doing stuff, and it's not my favorite things to be a part of.
They can get messy.
But they can. But we went out there and we got a very good reaction. Part of that on the back of Carlito's name. Part of that's on the goodwill that Keegan had built up over 2 years of working from that promotion, and then the other part of it is I would like to think it's my job fitting in with those two guys as the heel to accentuate the reaction that they're getting, you know. And so from that standpoint, it was a bit of fun, and we told the story that we wanted to tell, but it was never going to be Dave Meltzer 8-star classic, you know. So
how's that run now at All-Star? I mean, how are you enjoying it there with Mitch there? Yeah.
It's been really good. I would probably like to be. I mean, part of the things that came up straight away when you asked that is just my own limitations. As far as part of it is, like, on Saturday, like it shows on Saturday night, I have to coach rugby in Canberra, and I have to then bolt. And sometimes I'm getting there, like, you know, I'm just making it just to sort of just get ready. And I mean, fortunately, I'm on last, so I've got a little bit extra time there. But it's not the same experience as being able to be there and I suppose be around to sort of help those guys throughout the day. It feels like I'm sort of forcing myself on them a little bit there as well. But whereas, like, the next one's on a Sunday, so I'm not going to be as rushed beforehand, and kind of can sit back and just sort of ease into the process and be a little bit more like what how I would approach it normally. But it's been fun. Mostly been doing stuff with Keegan at the moment, really. Like, I did the run in. Wrestled B, which was fun, particularly because he was another old PWA trainee. Wrestled Keegan, and then wrestled this 3-way. I think that's pretty much been the whole run. And then there was like the Wrestling Go show in between, where I got to wrestle Luke, which was an awesome throwback, because Luke was one of our PWA Canberra guys, like when we originally started that. So it's been fun.
Is that Luke? Which Luke? Luke
Watts.
Luke Watts.
Yeah.
Hope from
Luke is good.
Hope from top. What is it? The Hope from the top rope.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Luke.
Love that guy.
Lightning Luke. I've known that guy since, like I said, since maybe 2006. I think that's when I met him first. So, no, I got a lot of time for Luke.
Very nice guy.
We used to sit next to each other at work when I left teaching and went into different industry. We had a desk next to each other, and but he's a champion bloke.
And he's also doing the Slam Pro Wrestling too. So in Canberra,
Yep.
So he's doing really good stuff there.
100%. I mean, I haven't guilted him enough yet to being able to book me, but they're doing some awesome stuff down there. So
I'm sure he would if he knew. He's like,
can I get that in writing, Chris? And you can.
Well, the thing is, we're very good friends with Luke. So if you want, I mean, we basically got him there. Basically got him there at VCW. So he owes me one. So it's all good, Ryan. I'll hook you up.
Thanks, Xander. I appreciate
it. Nice guy. He's a really nice guy.
You know, they say it's not what you know, it's who you know, right?
100%. 100%.
Or who you no, that's a different one. So yeah.
This is a little bit hard, this one, but if you were to choose, which wrestlers would you put on your Mount Rushmore, past or present?
From anywhere or Australian?
Anywhere in the world. So
would have been guys I would have mentioned. So Terry Funk, 100%. I think he's drastically underrated. Hashimoto, Kenta Kobashi, those three, and then sort of that, and probably Shawn Michaels would be the like if I was talking about just overall body of work, but then also contribution and just the style that I like. But there are so many guys out there that I either have taken little bits and pieces from or just really enjoy their work. Like,
yeah, it's a hard one because you can only pick 4, but that's a pretty good list.
100%. But then there are guys like Les Kellett that I like. He's an old English guy who I just think is so underrated, and his comedic timing is amazing. The guys like that I'm just like, I for what they do, they're like the top of that stuff like that. So, but that I probably wouldn't put them on my top 4 of all time.
So you're always just saying that you now that you're liking to help the younger guys come through.
Mm-hmm.
Any advice for any young inspiring pro wrestlers that are just coming in?
The same thing that Rick Sterling told me and others many, many times. I hope I don't butcher this quote. Just quit. Yeah.
That should be my motto, actually. I like that one.
Yeah, that was that
It's
one.
too hard, just
Who was the other one? Sabian.
Just quit.
Just quit. I heard an amazing story one time, and I wasn't there for it, so I'm going to butcher some of the details. But Black Jesus in CZW, I think he might have been wrestling as Sabian at the time. And worked some guy, and apparently the match was horrible. And he walked backstage and pretty much just was like, just burn your boots. Just like, he was just like, you need to just quit, burn your boots. And I like that. So I always get a chuckle out of, is it tackle, drop down, roll out, burn your boots. Some of it almost seems like advice for guys. Some of it almost seems hypocritical because it's never been a focus of mine. But stuff like it is a cosmetic business, and it was one of the things that I probably never paid attention to. I was sort of more interested in the how to do it and how to be better at that sort of things and the emotional side of things. But it very much is a cosmetic business, particularly if your aspirations are to pursue it. When I say that, I mean pursue it overseas and potentially professionally. Don't get pigeonholed. Is another one, and that's probably one of the things that I always, I'd go down these rabbit holes and immerse myself in these different styles. But I was always confident that I could go into any training school and be able to sort of at least sort of hold my own. I don't profess to be able to go in and do all some of the flips and other stuff, but I could at least, get through competently. And I suppose that's probably the other one is around sort of, I suppose, ego, being able to just go in anywhere, just learn as much as you can, ask as many questions as you can. And from lots of different people as well. It's interesting. It's probably one of my bugbears in sports coaching, but then I see it in wrestling as well. I even saw it the last one of the last sort of shows. But it's that whole just because someone's really good doesn't mean they can explain what made them good or why they were good or how it is someone else could get there. So I always love when you see a new coach appointed in any sport. It's a big one in rugby, but they go, oh, such and such has been appointed the head coach. He played at this place and he played at this place and he did this and this was his play. And it's like, where's his coaching achievements? Like, it's not just about what you're able to accomplish. And I suppose with wrestling, you see someone have this amazing success, doesn't mean they're going to be the best trainer, I suppose, but they're going to be able to sort of tell you how they got to that point. But they may not be able to prepare you for a different path or a different avenue and those sort of things. So definitely get what you can from as many different sources as you can. And some of it's going to be good, some of it's going to be bad, and some of it just won't apply to you, right? So I suppose there's probably the big things that I probably would have, I tried to have my approach that way and try to apply as much as I possibly could.
Yeah, awesome. And also, I mean, for the future now, next couple of weeks, months, whatever, any up and coming shows where the wrestling fans can check you out?
It's got Chris Masters, I think, in July.
Do. Yep.
It's a big one.
Master Lock ready.
Master Lock.
So that's July 17th in St. Mary's. And then you put me on the spot now. I couldn't tell you what I'm doing in August. Probably going down to watch Slam on August 6th. But
do you want me to check on your socials?
Mate, I'm not on socials when it comes to wrestling stuff. So that's another thing too,
That's
right?
what
Like,
Xander said. He goes, oh, he's struggling to find anything. He goes, I can't find any Facebook or anything.
yeah. Who was it? Rocky Monero posted something when he came down to Canberra last time, and he put up this horrible photo. I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I can't find photos of you online, mate." Like, and I was like, I just never like. So it was this horrible one from back when my beard was ridiculous. Yeah, I'm not big on all that sort of stuff. When I stepped away in 2000, I want to say 15-ish. I like deactivated everything. I was kind of, and I was just kind of like, I'm just not in that space. But you look now and you talk about like advice for young guys and stuff like that, or girls as well. Please, I'm not discriminating, but young wrestlers coming through. Was very much now it is about building that brand, and it's not my. I'm not in that space. If I was starting out now, I would be definitely paying heavy attention to that sort of thing. And I know there are guys that were kind of doing that even earlier on. Like I think straight away my brain goes to stuff that like MJXT was doing that at Victoria for a while. As much as cringing giving Josh any credit. Where's my camera, Josh? But it's but no, like JXT was doing some awesome stuff, trying to build his own brand and having that social media presence. And then it's the stuff that Damien Slater, I almost named him, but I didn't. The stuff that Slater is doing now with all his stuff and that really building that brand around. I suppose he's in transition more into that space now as that coach or SME, that subject matter expert. So if I was more invested or earlier on in my career, I'd be really trying to build up that brand and have that presence online and be doing all that stuff. And it's just not me. I'm just at the moment, like like I said to you at the start, like I'm time poor, and I'm just happy to show up, have fun, help as many guys as I can on the way through, because my motivations are not the same as they were 10 years ago when I was, wanted to conquer the world and everything else. So
good. So
July 17th, I do know that one. And I'm sure there's one in August that I can't remember off the top of my head. So I usually have that mad panic and go through like old messages and go, oh, that's right, I said I'd do that one. But yeah,
hang on a second. You almost didn't make tonight.
Sorry?
You almost didn't make tonight.
I know. I can hear the newborn out there crying. I was like, in so much trouble.
I was like, you're good for. You're like, oh shit, no, I totally forgot. I'm thinking, wow, I didn't.
No, I remembered on Wednesday and didn't write it down. And then you messaged me today because on Wednesday I was sitting, where all good thinking happens. I was in the shower. I went, I got to write that down. Obviously, there's nowhere to write it down when you're in the shower. So, so I was just like, I got to write that down. I remembered that this week. I'm like, surely they'll message me like the day before. And so when you messaged me today, I was like, thank goodness you messaged because it escaped. But yeah, I'll tell you. Look, you laughed at my CTE jokes before. No, like I said, it's just life is chaos, but it's a good chaos at the moment. So I do rely on good people like yourself, mate, that just remind me along the way. And I suppose August 6th, I'll be in the crowd probably cheering on the guys at Slam and watching some of the good stuff they do. And I think that's about all I've got on at the moment. So
nice. Well, hopefully you can be in the Slam ring one day. You don't know. So Xander, get that.
Yeah, once Xander gets it sorted, 100%.
I'm on to it. Luke Watts, like I said, he owes me a big one, so there's no problem. And the other thing is too, listen, like I'm not a booker there at VCW for Vulcan Championship Wrestling at all, but Izzy, you're not sure if you had a match with Izzy. Sorry, Mike Valuable.
Hey, you said it this time, not me.
So maybe we might have to, tell the big dog, Mr. Vulcan.
Oh, mate, I'd love it.
Set that up.
No, I'd love that. And I enjoyed my experience. Like we said, you were talking before we pressed record. I enjoyed my experiences working with Morrow, and I know he's doing some good stuff there as well. And to be fair, like I saw something. It was an advertisement or something popped up not that long ago for what they're doing, and there was a bunch of guys that I'd never heard of before. And I don't mean that as an insult to them. It's just more. Sometimes I don't have my finger as closely on the pulse as I would like. And like they look like they've got some good young talent coming through as well. But in saying that, it'd be great to get in the ring with Izzy and show them how two old war horses do it, right?
Well, that's it. And the other thing is too, if I get you those two matches, one in VCW and one with Slam, it would be nice maybe me and you. But I want to be as an eagle. I want to be an eagle for the night.
Okay, sweet.
So you
Only if I get to be like a permanent like co-host on Good Snap, right? Is that how it works?
Deal done.
Yeah. Next time I won't just bring in one glass of red. I'll bring in the whole bottle, and we'll make it really interesting.
You can take my spot. Go for it, man. No, you can take my spot.
Yeah, exactly. They're playing can we edit like "Tell Me a Lie" song in the background, like the Shawn Michaels retirement song in the background while you walk out slowly, Zorba, or what?
Na 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 na. That song. As we leave. No,
I was just thinking of the slow-mo montage.
That's good.
Well, Ryan, we'll leave it there. We appreciate you coming on.
Anytime, guys. Well, as long as Xander keeps reminding me, anytime.
No, thank you. Yeah, thank you for coming on. Thanks for the great chat. I'd say people follow your socials, but you don't have any, so it's okay. Follow our socials. Make sure you like 100%. The Facebook page.
What is it? Good.
Sorry.
Good
Can I just jump in here again?
Yeah.
Zorba, you're right. They need to follow our socials, our Facebook page, which is going pretty good. But please let them know about the YouTube.
YouTube, yeah. Please subscribe to the YouTube page, everyone, because we've got shit all on there at the moment. So,
you're gonna have even less after my name goes up.
And all you maggots,
this is what we're hoping.
And all you maggots watching, all right, subscribe to YouTube, please. Please.
Yeah. Click the link,
please, guys.
Sign in, and then hit subscribe.
Do we need to do like one of those ones with like the thumbnails? And you like click the button here, and like you see all the.
It's down the bottom there next to you. Yeah, that's it. No, I appreciate it, Ryan. Thanks for hopping on. And
anytime, guys.
Signing off, and see you later.
See you guys.